und go. And y'all heard that. Y'all heard ready, set, und go. So, like... Und go. Hello, Solomon. Hello, Tom. How are you guys doing? I hope you guys are enjoying this icy day. Like...
Awful, dude.
Man, like, it took me 15 minutes to scrape off my van. That's stupid.
So I was warned. I was forewarned about the ice, and literally told, like, make sure you leave a few extra minutes. To, turn on your car, let it warm up, get it thawing somewhat, so it'll be easier to scrape. And I'm like, I have someplace to be for 11 o'clock, and I'm cruising out of my house at like 10:50, 10:52. Hadn't touched the car, hadn't turned it on, nothing. And I walk over and it's just coated in like, it must have been a half inch.
Oh, yeah. Ice. Easily.
And I just looked and I was like,
Time to get the pickaxe out.
Yeah, legit. And my car, like, the air works. Okay, it works. But it takes its time.
Oh, yeah.
Getting there.
Yeah.
It's like, if I have a 15-minute drive, I know I'll be warm for the last 3.
Yep. That's about right. That's about fair. Yeah, I hear you.
So I've often been told that, like, my body is essentially a furnace. I just radiate heat. And so I was like, maybe if I not only turn on the air, but if I actually then sit in the car, maybe that will make it go faster. So I was only like 5 to 10 minutes late for my...
that's not bad. That's not bad. You got flexibility.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Everybody knew it was icy out there.
My natural thought was, so then you hugged the vehicle. And
then you should just like... I had like the image of just me on the hood of the car. And
I'm just telling you, you could. Like, it's an idea. Right, Tom? Like, that's what I'm saying. If we can make it work, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. But...
I'm almost the size of the vehicle anyway.
Right. So you could.
You
could have. It would have heated it up. I know the amount of effort that I burnt calories. I'm sure my watch is thinking, dude, you went for like a good workout. Like, way to go.
I love how the dichotomy there between, you, it's like it's a workout. I'm like, you're going to town, you're just in it. My solution was I'll just sit in the car.
You radiate awesomeness though. So like you just sit there like, hello, my vehicle.
I was like, I could expend effort trying to chip into this ice. Or I could just sit in my car.
You could just make it a good opportunity to chill, right? Like, it's good. No, it's fair. No, like, I also had... So I've got... Mark and Hannah are at home. Mark had, like, a stomach bug. It's kind of like, oh, yeah, dude. Yesterday was not a fun day for Coach at all.
Yeah.
And so, like, the vibe was hard. Got up this morning, and we're just like... It's already icy. So, like, all buses are canceled. Which our kids walk.
Right.
So, like... They never get an ice day or anything. So it's like, okay, let's throw him a bone. And also he hasn't been feeling great and stuff like that. So like, it was a double hit. So it's like, sure, like whatever. But then like to come out to the vehicle and I knew I was smart. I like took off the wipers. I'm like, oh, genius. Big flex. Yeah, no, because our van allows some cool air somehow to get into it, the doors are always a nightmare. Always a nightmare. And this time, the side door behind my door, unacceptable. So, like, had to crank the van, full heat, everything's like going nuts.
Yeah.
Still wasn't enough. So, like, I reefed on it, and you're, like, so scared to, like, accidentally rip out the... Like, anyone who has a Dodge Caravan knows that fear.
Oh, we used to have a Dodge Caravan.
Right?
I fully understand.
Right? Like, it's actually... horrible fear because you're just like, I need to reef this out, but if I pull too much,
my thing is always within about, I want to say 2 months of buying this car, and I bought it used to be fair, but within about 2 months or so I had to replace the driver's side door handle, and it wasn't during winter, it was during the spring. Sucker just popped off. And so that is like, I'm like neurotic about the door handles just all the time. But when it's icy, I'm like, I'm still just like,
you like lightly tap just to get the ice. No.
Little tiny hammer just. Okay.
Oh, so you're like an archaeologist style hammer, just like tap, 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 tap. Have a mini fan blowing.
Yeah.
Now I need to research this. I need to find this.
Yeah.
So next for the next stream, we'll throw that down. You'll be able to see that.
Yeah.
It's gonna be glorious. I hope. Otherwise, it's just gonna be. It's probably gonna be comically overpriced too. Like I can imagine you could get this whole like de-ice your vehicle for $3,000. Be like, that's a little much. Kind of. Sorry, I've been horribly rude as a host. You may have also noticed our awesome dude Adam Paul. Yeah. He's like bashful and all that stuff like that. Man, we've known each other for years now.
Yeah,
like,
it's been a while.
Oh, holy crud. At least 6 years.
Yep.
6 or 7
that
years.
That sounds about right.
And fellow nerd here, sporting his own drawing, actually. So he did that. Right. He's also designed his own shirts and stuff like that. He's epic.
I don't know if you can see it on stream.
Yeah, man. Like, if you can vibe the Deku.
There we go.
Yeah, there it is.
It felt like the right shirt.
Yeah, well, it makes... I literally looked through this morning for any kind of anime thing, and I'm like, I have nothing. So
I may or may not have thrown a load of laundry in at like 12:30 this morning in order to.
That's smart.
Yeah.
See, I didn't think like that at all. Yeah. I grabbed anything. I'm like, sure, like we'll work with this.
I was like, oh, is my Deku shirt clean? No.
Yeah, so Adam actually works for this cool radio station down the road, UCB Canada. He is a hardcore rep there and does a lot of, well, you're a rep, so like you're here, you're repping and all that.
I don't think I've ever been introduced to the title of hardcore rep.
Hardcore rapper. I don't know. I think it's a cool title.
Yeah.
It's just
legit. I mean, yeah, no, we'll take it.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Definitely a hardcore nerd. You just need to visit his basement sometime. Like legit. I went down and I used to think that I had a decent collection. Like I'd bring people and they're like, whoa, that's cool. Yeah. No, that was nothing compared to me going to your basement. I'm like, it's like nerd mecca here. It's beautiful. Like,
and only like. Honestly, only like 30% of it is actually mine.
Right! It's just like, holy snap! The investment, it's awesome!
Yeah.
But, no, you've also helped us out in program. Like, you used to run D&D group online with our crew.
I miss those guys.
Yeah, they miss you. I'm going to say that because they don't like Wilson DMing. Wilson let way too many things fly. That was the problem. I was the too nice DM, so if we're to do it like good cop, bad cop, you would have definitely been the hardcore bad cop.
I'm the literal opposite.
You're just like, no!
I TPK'd the gang with an ancient gold dragon.
It was amazing. I'm going to say that right now.
It was better than you.
I was trying to teach them a lesson in nonviolence. It didn't work.
Tom, you've been saying stuff the whole time.
I've been here quietly.
No? Maybe.
Hello?
You know what? Oh. It would help.
Probably because it's not plugged in.
Just a heads up, it needs to be plugged in.
That's smart.
Hey, there we go. How are you doing, Tom?
Sick still.
You're still sick. That sucks. That's sick. Not really. It is, but it isn't. But you get it. You understand.
I may have woke up 10 minutes ago.
You may have woke up. I'm proud of you. It's good for you. Anyway, yeah. So today's topic of Level Up with Wilson is actually something that Adam has spoken in at his church. Represent Trenton Baptist. Woo, woo, woo.
No one there will ever see this.
No, exactly. It's just like, yes, the rap to no one on there.
Yeah.
But it's all good. You threw down a sermon, particularly talking about Revelation 19, which
nice easy lifting.
Yeah, light stuff to throw around, because who doesn't talk about Revelation and go, oh yeah, so that's like a chit chat, whatever, and move on.
Well, it had been 5 years since I had preached, so I wanted to go easy on myself.
Right.
Okay.
Even Tom's like, yeah, all right, sure. No, like.
I don't know what possessed me to do it. I really don't. I regret it to this day.
Hey, you know what? I still think it's really cool. I think it's something that I think the church just doesn't handle that book alone fairly well.
No, it's so misunderstood.
Right. And there's a lot of fear in just like, if I say something, someone's going to take it way out of context for one. But then, like, what if I throw down something and someone thinks that's a prediction? Then that's going to be a whole other hit. How does that then affect the church body and stuff like that? And the biggest disservice that I found, and actually this was a prof that I had in college, and we studied Revelation, but like he actually wrote his dissertation paper on the churches of Revelation. And his biggest thing is, if you do not fully get the message of what's going on in Revelations 1 through 3, you may as well just not read the rest of Revelation. And that's been my baseline support after that. Because I used to be like this hardcore dude who's like hunting for all the mysteries. Like you feel like Da Vinci Code mindset, like, okay, where is it? What is this number? What are we doing? Like, you're freaking out. And it's easy to get pulled in. But in light of that and going like, no, like, we need to remember what the baseline of what this book was about. It was about the early church going through persecution. How do you maintain your faith in the midst of that? What is your vision goal to that? The hope, but also the judgment that's involved in it too. Like that, there is this delicate balance that if you are not always having that in your head, you easily get lost into like, okay, what is this? Who reps this? What's this kind of stuff? You get into foretelling rather than forthtelling, and the idea that like we need to take this message even today and go like, am I exuding Laodicea? Am I Ephesus at this point? Like in examining our heart and our mind and like processing that, but then also doing that as a church and going, where are we at right now? And how are we presenting that even to people outside of this? Not in like always hard set on the doom gloom, but like legitimately going, yo, there is something coming. You do need to prep yourself for it and know where you stand. Because depending on where you stand is where you're going to end up. And it's a hard reality that we don't usually like to do or say and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I've always been a fan of Revelation, always been a fan of discussing it. Tom knows this.
Yep.
Yeah, even last night, right, Tom? We were even discussing a little bit on Revelation in our overtime or after hours with Wilson. Special segment brought to you by. But like legitimately, it's taking that to the next level, and so you made this really kind of cool connection, and we talked about it before you even did the sermon, because
that's right.
You had brought up that you've been doing some reading and prep for the sermon, which again got me drooling on like, oh, so like what's a fellow theologian throwing down, stuff like that. But you did some prep and made a connection to All-Might and the White Rider.
Ooh.
Yes.
So like that's what I'm like.
Ooh.
What? And Tom right now is like, ooh, excited. Like he's just like, it's like. So here, before we start our dive and stuff like that, I'm gonna throw down the scripture just so that you guys can follow along. That one. Yeah, because then it looks fancy and stuff.
By the way, Wilson, tell Adam he's the best.
Oh, FYI, Tom says you're the best.
Oh, thanks, Tom. Appreciate it, buddy.
So like, I'm just second best. Is that it, Tom?
For DMs, yes.
Oh, for DMs, yes. Okay, good to know. So the support's, good. We need to have a DM off.
I might find my way back to the DM table
yes!
at some point. We'll see.
Tom just screamed in a lot of excitement.
We'll see.
There was a lot of enthusiasm in that, yes. All right. So we're going to be specifically looking at Revelations 19. So if you're checking along with us here, or if you're reading along as you're listening to this on the podcast, we're going to be looking at Revelation 19 verses 11 to 20. And so I'll do just a quick read through. Is it cool if it's NLT, or would you prefer NIV? It's your call.
I preached it out of the ESV.
Ooh.
Myself.
Huh?
Maybe NIV.
NIV? You'd like NIV?
Might rock a little closer.
Sure, we can do that.
Oh my, this man changes
Where
things
he's
up.
changing things up.
Whoa,
Whoa, there's a UK.
NIV UK. Interesting.
Whoa.
Interesting.
We'll stick to this one.
Yeah, we'll keep on topic, and I won't get into this discussion of like translation theory.
Yeah.
You know, dynamic and formal equivalence, and
Don't
throw
confuse
down
the
those.
call.
I'll keep that.
For those of you hardcore studiers, you can take it to the next level on that one.
Yeah, man, you get me off on like a whole rabbit trail about like, you know, biblical languages and translation theory. Like, oh, we'd be here all day.
Oh yeah. Okay, it would be nice if it would actually shift over. That'd be really cool.
Maybe.
Oh my goodness, I'm gonna actually cry a little bit.
Press the search button.
I did. Tom's giving me
I did though.
backhand. There we go.
There it is.
There it is. Wow, it's like Tom knows
Funny.
things. Wow. Getting told off. I love it. It's so good. Okay. All right. So, Revelation 19 verses 11 to 20. Again, I've said this 30 times. I saw heaven standing up, and there before me was a white horse, whose rider is called Faithful and True. With justice he judges and wages war. His eyes are like blazing fire, and on his head are many crowns. He has a name written on him that no one knows but he himself. He is dressed in a robe dipped in blood, and his name is the Word of God. The armies of heaven were following him, riding on white horses and dressed in fine linen, white and clean. Coming out of his mouth was a sharp sword with which to strike down the nations. He will rule them with an iron scepter. He treads the winepress of the fury of the wrath of God Almighty. On his robe and on his thigh, he has written, or has this name written: King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And I saw an angel standing in the sun, who cried in a loud voice to all the birds flying in midair, "Come together for the great supper of God, so that you may eat the flesh of kings, generals, and the mighty horses, and their riders, and flesh of all people, free and slave, great and small." I think we're actually going to stop at 18, because really it was the focus on the white rider. That's what, yeah. So 18, we'll stop there.
It was like 11 to 16.
Yes, that's right. That was my bad.
Wow, Wilson.
Yeah, it was my bad, Tom. It was my bad. And then I hit the microphone cord. So, hardcore imagery, man.
Yes.
Like, no light gesture of, Jesus being this, little dude holding a lamb and cuteness and cuddles.
I made reference at some point, I think, in the sermon to, and this is not original to me, but I will take it and pass it along, which was Pantene Jesus.
Pantene Jesus. Oh my goodness. Okay, you must elaborate at this point.
It's that image of Jesus that we get that is more at home in a shampoo commercial than in not even first century Middle East.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah.
But then also that the sort of I've heard the phrase "gentle Jesus, meek and mild," right? And I even get into it in the message. There's legitimacy to that idea of gentle Jesus, meek and mild. Mm-hmm. There's a great book by a guy named Dane Ortland called "Gentle and Lowly." And it's the heart of Christ for sinners and sufferers is the subtitle to that. Mm-hmm. And it's the idea that, in all of Scripture, there's only one place where we find Jesus talking about what is his own heart. And it's in Matthew chapter 11. It's the come to me all...
Come to me, all who are weary and heavy burdened. Yeah.
That passage where he talks about, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. Mm-hmm. And the part that doesn't get talked about as often is where he says, "And my heart is gentle and lowly." So it's the idea that at his innermost core of who he is, the thing that he is most naturally, the thing that he is rated at the center of his being, he is gentle and lowly. And the book unpacks what that is. So there's legitimacy to the gentle Jesus, meek and mild imagery. But what always strikes me is, like, in any stories out there, like, what are the worst, with some exception, what are, like, the worst characters? Like, if you're gonna see, like, a review, you know, what's one of the things that they're likely gonna harp on is if the characters feel two-dimensional. There's not enough depth, there's not enough complexity, they're not three-dimensional. The reason that's a problem is because they're less real. They're more like a caricature or a cartoon character, which is really more of just like a one-note, one-thing kind of character than an actual, real, living, breathing person. So in storytelling, like, if all of your characters are flat and two-dimensional, it becomes boring. You dissociate, you disconnect. It only really works in, like, you know, Looney Tunes style cartoons to have that flat of a characterization. And yet, how often does our characterization of Jesus become just as two-dimensional, become just as flat? And there's ditches on either side to it. And the point of the sermon was to address both sides, both ditches that can be fallen into. Which is, there is a tendency to think of gentle Jesus, meek and mild, and only that, or like people who take it to such extreme where it's like they tell, you know, the stereotypically Southern American, you know, the little baby Jesus, you know, like
9 pound, 5 ounce.
Yeah,
that's right.
Or the flip side of, like, the hellfire and brimstone folks who, you know, all Jesus ever is this, right?
100%.
So the idea of the sermon was to bring about a more balanced, three-dimensional view of, like, just who is Jesus, because if we see him more three-dimensionally, he's more real. He is. We stop seeing him as a caricature, and we start seeing him as a living, breathing, active human being.
100%. And so Have you ever checked out American Gods on Prime Video?
I have not.
So, I've watched it on and off, and like, it's a lot of hardcore content. I will say that. Like, definitely adult stuff, not something I would just, Mark, Hannah, like, go watch this, as you see, like, an orgy happen. It's, like, really awkward, and you just, like, very Game of Thrones kind of vibe. But it's written by Neil Gaiman. So, like, this guy knows how to write, and how to, like, play with thoughts.
I'm interested because I know something about this. I'm interested where you're going to go with
so, particularly the last episode of season 1 features Easter, and like talking about, you know, what is the real idea of Easter. But of course, you know, they go, oh, well, so like it's celebrating Jesus. Well, at this dinner party, you didn't see one Jesus. You saw so many different Jesuses. And you're just like, wait, what? How does that work? It's like, well, no, there's like the Catholic Jesus, the Protestant Jesus, you have this Jesus, the Ethiopian Jesus, and like, so much so that we reflect Jesus, kind of as you brought up, like it's a reflection almost of our own culture in some ways, and how we would portray, what do we hold on to it, that becomes very two-dimensional. And even the interaction, you saw this with, like, Shadow was talking to one Jesus, he's just kind of like a hippie vibe. And you're just kind of like, oh, no, man. Like, no. As a Christian, you're just like, no, man. Like, this could have been a moment, and it's like, no, fair rebuttal, fair retort, because we do that. We easily take the concept of, when automatically I think two-dimensional, I think of, Dogma. Buddy Jesus. Like, the whole, we're going to sell the friendly Buddy Jesus vibe. And comes up every time in my head. It's like, why wouldn't you want to sell Jesus like that? Like, he's your chill, relaxed kind of savior, but like he's got you in a bind kind of stuff. But it so undermines the legitimacy of like what Jesus threw down in the New Testament, and like what he was sharing, both, yes, the grace, but then also, I'm here to bring a sword. Like, there's some stuff that Jesus threw down that made even his family go, dude, you're off your rocker, man. Like, we don't go saying stuff like that. And he's like, I'm not here for that, man. Like, I'm not. You're missing the whole point. And so I appreciate that insight. I appreciate you even bringing that up. And again, I think we don't really sit on this White Rider thing. So I wanted to throw an image for you guys on kind of what the White Rider is. This was one that I actually remember. Do you ever... trying to remember what was the series that watched this, but this was a video series on the White Rider, and they found this artist that gave a rendering of it. This is the image that I always saw on the White Rider, and it's kind of like, holy crud, this is like nightmarish kind of like vibe, kind of like you got the sword coming on out, you got like an etched in tattoo kind of vibe. Now, the dipped in blood, you don't really see that. Even
I think that's what they're going. Like their idea is like, well, it's red because it's all been stained,
right?
But it actually should be more. If you think about somebody who gets into steps in a wine press, and the edges, like in the hem of the robe, being stained red. That'd be a more accurate image.
Yeah. But, like, this was always one that stood up. There's another one that's very kind of cheesy-esque, kind of stuff like that.
What I like about this one is its representation of the other riders in behind. Because that is something that is actually quite important.
Right. It's not just Jesus showing up and just being like, yo, I'm just going to solo wreck all the... Though he does. Like, you read in there. He is the solo wreck. But there's other rep behind him, though. And so it's kind of intense. Another one that's very vague. You don't even get to see really his face or the burning aspect or sword. Kind of really
that great.
That's really I like actual birds gorging on the bodies. Wow. Yeah. That's the first time I've ever seen that image.
That's one of those images that was either done by one of the great artists of history. Or like an 8-year-old.
That's right.
There's no in between.
It's all good. Solomon's Story now. What is that? Aragorn in that one picture?
Just right
That's
smack
right.
in the middle.
Because it's just like Obi-Wan, right? Like Obi-Wan's got to be affiliated.
You got long hair, you got a beard. Must be Jesus.
Must be Jesus.
Oh my.
Absolutely.
Tom, I get it, man. I get it.
Okay. Legitimacy. There is some legitimacy here, okay?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
One of the reasons I even chose this passage was... so I've been a fan of Lord of the Rings for a long time.
Yeah, man.
But only through the lens of, the movies and some of the other, external stuff. I had never read the books. I still can't say I fully have, because I have not finished Return of the King.
Okay.
I'm, a few chapters in. I can't remember where I left off. But I was, at the time, I knew that I'd been asked to preach, and I was listening to Lord of the Rings for the first time in the audiobooks, and I had just read, or listened to, however you want to say it, a chapter in Lord of the Rings, which is the White Rider.
Yeah.
And so then I was thinking one day about what I was going to preach on, and I don't even remember what actually brought me to Revelation 19. But I ended up there, and it's the rider on a white horse.
Yeah.
And I immediately thought of the chapter that I had just read.
Yeah, man.
So the entire introduction. So again, legitimacy to that being in there.
Yeah.
Maybe it's my fault because because my entire introduction to my sermon was focusing on that chapter.
Well, it was focusing on Gandalf, if I remember from reading it. Yeah. And it's just like, as soon as you made that description, and so if you guys, Lord of the Rings fan, represent, come on, let's go. You're talking about Two Towers, where you see Gandalf coming up over the hill, you see him in the Shadowfax, he's like, as soon as you see that, every nerd's like, oh my goodness! We know what's gonna happen!
Type moment. What I actually zeroed in on, and the chapter that is entitled The White Rider in the book, is actually when the three hunters first encounter the resurrected Gandalf.
Oh, right, that's
in the forest, in Fangorn. The reason that, what I picked up on in the sermon as well, was sort of the mystery of this identity, because one of the things is, you'll note in that passage, the name Jesus doesn't ever actually show up.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a reference to a name, but it's a name that's only known to him in the passage. But then there's also, like, 6 other names given for him, too. So it's like he has a name that nobody knows, but also these 6 other names.
FYI.
But it's never actually, like... It never actually comes out and just, like, explicitly says, this is Jesus Christ.
Right.
So I mean, it's obviously him. I mean, everything, like, immediately stacks up to it could be no one else.
Oh, yeah.
But my first point played on the sort of mystery aspect, and it's because you don't get this as much in the movies, but in the book, they're really not sure who this old guy in white is. They're like, is this just some rando just hanging out in the forest? Their key worry is that it's Saruman.
Oh, heck yeah,
the White Wizard.
Yeah.
Who was said to wander those forests as an old man clad in white.
Yeah.
So they're like, they actually have like a couple of full-on conversations with him.
Yeah.
And still have no idea who it is. And so I played up that sort of mystery aspect in the beginning, as I was trying to, like, you know, look at the compounding evidence in the passage of, like, who is the wider and the right, the wider,
the wider. I like it.
The rider on the white horse.
I like it.
You know, as I wanted to touch on his identity, because that was kind of what I like. The message was structured in 3 ways, which was like, first of all, who are we talking about? Secondly, what is this passage telling us about this individual? And then thirdly, what does the rest of the Bible kind of tell us to get a more full picture of who this individual is? How do we understand this in contrast to Gentle Jesus, Meek and Mild?
Yeah.
Because that's anything but.
Yeah. 100%.
Like, that is intense, and all of the imagery is, like, warlike. And, you know, even things, there's even some simple things, like the rod of iron that he's described as having. It basically is used as a blunt force instrument to bash in the skulls of the heavenly leader, or the earthly leaders.
Yeah, the punks that are getting in the way.
Yeah.
Essentially.
the other pretenders to the throne.
Yeah, man.
So it's like everything in that passage is just so intense.
Yeah.
And so so that's where the Lord of the Rings thing came from, was the identity aspect of who is this person in white. I think Gandalf, I actually have put it together. And despite the fact that Tolkien was very explicit that he did not want to bring any religious imagery, despite his devout Catholicism, into Lord of the Rings, it's like he couldn't help himself.
Oh, 100%, man.
Because I feel like if you combine Frodo, Aragorn, and Gandalf, you pretty much have a full orbed picture of Jesus.
Ooh. Yeah, I never thought of Frodo. Yeah, and Tom's throwing down. Yeah, like he can get that. Yo, Solomon, you're throwing down. Tolkien's work is filled with war and religious allegory, even if he himself didn't like allegory or... Yeah, 100%.
Well, you write what you know.
Yeah.
Right? And
if you are in that, sure, it's going to come out.
The other thing, too, is, like, as much as he said he didn't want to bring allegory or, like, religious elements into it, he did also bring in a lot of mythological elements. As an expert on English mythology and Nordic mythology in particular, and you see that woven, especially if you start getting into, like, Silmarillion and, like, some of this other stuff in terms of, you know, the Valar and Eru Ilúvatar and, like, all of that stuff, right? You get so deep into the mythological weeds.
That's cool.
But you can still see, like, anytime you're dealing with that, like, your own worldview, your own biases, your own stuff, it's just inevitably going to come out.
100%.
And so I still maintain that, like, and I think he almost was, in creating such an ensemble to the piece, that's almost where he was trying to avoid the allegory, but you can't help but draw comparisons when you consider certain aspects of Gandalf, certain aspects of Aragorn, and certain aspects of Frodo. You know, Frodo ultimately, you know, bearing the burden and weight of darkness and bringing about its ultimate destruction. Even though in the book, I'm pretty sure Gollum just trips and falls, but
the ripping of the finger, like legit, it's like holy snap.
Although to that point, there's theories that is one of only 2 instances in Tolkien's writing when Eru Ilúvatar directly... Eru Ilúvatar, for those who aren't hardcore Tolkien freaks like me, is essentially God in Tolkien's writings. And there's only 2 instances, if I recall correctly, and I can't even remember what the other one is right now, where it's suspected that Eru Ilúvatar directly influenced an event in Middle-earth. One of them being, and it's only a theory, but it's Gollum tripping and falling into the fire. Because in the movies, Frodo has a lot more agency. Like, he, full on tackles him off the side, basically, and they wrestle and they fall. In the book, he just straight trips. He's just dancing and he just goes.
Smooth move, Gollum. Good job. Way to go.
And the two hobbits are basically just watching. It's great.
Though to be honest, Gollum as the second embodiment of death. Mm-hmm. Imagine if he became the next Sauron. You see this river folk character.
Yeah. So anyway, that's oh man, that's a tangent.
That's way tangent. Sorry.
But anyway, so that's Frodo.
Yeah.
And his representation of Christ. Obviously, with Aragorn, you've got the promised king, right? The one who will unite all men.
That's right.
There's a lot of that kind of imagery in there, and then again, painfully obvious with Gandalf.
Oh, yeah.
Dude died.
Yep.
And then came back.
Comes back. Now he's boss powered. He's fighting off Nazgul, for crying out loud.
Well, and again, maybe that was the second instance, actually. It is the second instance.
Yeah.
It is... Originally, Gandalf was sent to Middle-earth by the Valar, which are the lesser gods. The sort of more like the Greek or Norse pantheon that we're kind of accustomed to seeing in mythology. And it was one of the Valar who sent this essentially angelic being that is Gandalf and the other 4 wizards into Middle-earth with a mission to destroy Sauron. But when Gandalf comes back, it's not his Valar mistress who sends him back. It's Eru Ilúvatar himself.
Oh, snap.
Resurrected Gandalf. That's right. Gave him a greater measure of his original power. And there's also, you could get into Christ is the new Adam imagery, because originally Saruman was sent with a greater measure of his original power as the White Wizard to hold that place and hold that role of sort of almost being the head wizard. But he failed. Yeah. And he turned to darkness.
Yeah, the abuse of power.
And that's why Gandalf comes back as Gandalf the White.
That's right.
He's the... I love how we have not talked about My Hero.
I know. We started off going, it's going to be all about All-Might. And then
I literally I glanced at
it's good.
I was going to say, what the heck's happening?
Yes.
And I was
ready to put it. That's a thing.
Yeah, we're just
I was expecting my All-Might talk.
I said to somebody today, I was like, we're supposed to, because they're like, what are you going to be talking about? I'm like, well, we're supposed to talk about this, but knowing Mike and I,
it's
going to be 100
so many
things.
tangents. And so Tom's like, I'm expecting my All-Might talk. What is this?
Yeah, went from white to the gray, kind of obvious. Yeah, absolutely.
100% Solomon. And
gray to white, rather.
Yeah, and so, but it's right there. It kind of makes sense, right? And so, to connect it to All-Might, and we shared this, and you had painted the most beautiful moment that, once you've seen, so if you haven't seen My Hero Academia, again, let's get going. Seriously, you just go on Crunchyroll. You should do this thing. Anywho, sorry.
Also, Tomo-chan is a girl. I don't know why that just popped up.
FYI. No, but...
Crunchyroll.
What have you done to us? The one moment that you kind of used in describing, this presence that... with All-Might. Sorry, I'll let you do the talking on that.
So where I was excited to have this conversation is because, so when I did my first draft of this sermon, it would have ultimately, if I hadn't done any editing to it, it would have been over 80 minutes long. Like, massive.
Oh, yeah.
So I had to be brutal in cutting things out. And I had this whole, like, section where I was using All-Might to illustrate the point. And then I realized literally nobody in my church
knows anime
is going to know anything about what I'm talking about.
Just for those of you online, this is All-Might.
There he
beautiful.
Is. The symbol of peace.
If you need another reference, there's this piece.
There he is.
He's beautiful.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, I like Silver Age All-Might. That's just me, but
Yeah?
I like the cape. I don't know why, but if I was to make a character, I wouldn't make one with a cape. I don't know
what it is for me. I think it's too Superman derivative for me. I like where he's a little bit removed from that, because as much as he does have overlap with Superman, he's a very different character.
Yeah, that's also true. I can see
that's where I follow. I'm less in love with the cape look.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
For All Might specifically.
Yeah, that's fair. Sorry, back on point. All Might. And
anyway, so they had this whole section with All Might, and I was like, I had to spend so much time just explaining the context of the character to then make the point of the allegory.
Yeah.
It's like if you're gonna use, I don't know, like a cup as an analogy for someone who's never seen or heard of a cup.
That's right. So now you have to get them educated.
Let me tell you about the form and function of a paper cup, in order to then use it as your connecting point to understand this spiritual truth. I'm like,
that's right.
This spiritual reality that I am trying to convey is going to be more familiar to them than
All Might alone.
Than the intended illustration is going to be.
100%.
So much as it hurt my heart personally to do it, I had to cut it out of the sermon, and that's where you and I got talking about it. So in particular, and it's why I picked up on the one image having the riders in behind. As an important aspect of the visual for the White Rider. And it's because that whole passage is set in the larger context of the great final battle. It's the final war against the beast and the dragon.
That's right.
And all of their legions. Mm-hmm. Without getting too deep into the eschatological weeds of who all they are. Versus the White Rider and his army. And there's some, ambiguity as to whether it is... Some people think it's all just an angelic army. Some people think it's all an army of just redeemed, of the believers.
Right.
I think it's more likely believers.
Yeah.
But I'd even be willing to accept a mix of the two.
Yeah.
So anyway, so you've got these two armies standing off with one another, and this absolutely petrifying vision of the one at their head.
Yeah.
Who is just, his robes are dipped in blood and the battle hasn't even started yet. It's just horrifying. And that's Jesus.
Let alone, a sword coming out of his mouth.
Yeah. And so when thinking about this, I thought about All Might. And the reason I thought about All Might is,
I gotta do this one.
So you see this guy, big, huge, this doesn't show it, but
oh no.
There he is.
Yeah.
That's a good one. But if you were to see him in context with the other characters, this dude's 8 feet tall.
Yeah, he's huge.
He's an absolute mountain. Just made of pure muscle.
Yeah.
He is loud. He is this big, booming, voice.
That's right, man.
Right? But one of the things that is particularly inspiring to the show's main character, Deku, is the fact that, All Might leaps into these situations, whether he's rescuing somebody, fighting a villain, whatever, with this huge grin on his face. Right?
I showed this one.
And so, here he is, battered, bloody, bruised, and still he's got this huge, toothy grin.
Just keeps it up, man.
And so I caught was it Solomon saying watch the show? I was like,
yeah,
absolutely.
Watch it.
Yeah, 100% agreed. So he's got this big toothy grin, and it like you see instances in the show of different reactions to that persona, that huge, character that he is. And it even talks into like why he presents himself that way, and it gets into the weeds a little bit. But like to kind of break it down, and I've actually thought about this a little bit further since we talked too. Man. There's kind of like the three responses that you sort of get to his character in the show. There's people like Deku, or like and it's why he does the grin is to reassure. It's a point of reassurance. If he's there to save you, you see that grin, you hear that big booming voice, you see that absolute mountain, and you feel safe.
Yeah.
And that's why he even says, like, his catchphrase is, I am here.
That's right.
And it's this declaration, like, the way the people, with the civilians, the people, the bystanders, the victims, the way they hear it, they hear, I am here to save you.
That's right.
I am here to protect you. I am here to keep you safe. Then there's the other side, which is the other kind of main part of it, which is if you're a villain, as soon as you hear that laugh or that declaration, or you see that toothy grin, your reaction is very different. It is not, oh good, he's here. It's, oh no, he's gonna mess me up. I've lost. I'm done. Oh no.
Oh yeah. 100%.
He is a being of such power that in the third episode of the show, he throws a punch at the air, right? He's standing like several feet away from the thing he's trying to punch.
Yeah.
And he punches with such force that it changes the weather. It goes from a bright sunny day to pouring rain, all because of a punch. Like, he's that. And that is horrifying to think about. Like, to be somebody who is perpetrating a crime, and then this dude who's been, active in an operation for decades by this point. He's famous the world over.
Yeah.
Everybody knows him.
That's right.
And you're there freaking, like, shoplifting or something, and then all of a sudden you're, I am here.
Oh, yeah.
White.
Yeah,
like, you are done. He becomes, like, in the show, he's, like, the ultimate deterrent. Like, his mere existence lowers the crime rate.
Right. And that's the cool follow-up on, so, semi-spoilers, if you've not watched it, again, you need to watch it. But, like, that actually becomes a problem later on. Where
yes, it does.
What do we do if this ultimate symbol of peace, right? Like, he's known as that. And I kind of find that interesting that All-Might even has his own different titles in that way. That, like, he is his ultimate symbol of peace. He's the number one hero.
Yep.
So everyone is looking up to him, and maybe even for other people, it's not even safety. It might be a motivation to be like, I want to be like that. And like, you hear that from number 2, especially. Like. You see this rage. That's like, I gotta surpass him. I gotta.
The thing that I always found most interesting, that I came to realize in my second watch through of the show, is that it's noted that Endeavor has actually saved more people.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Endeavor has actually, on pure numbers, saved more people than All-Might has, and he's still number 2.
Okay, we need some love for Endeavor. Like, the dude just works too hard, man.
I'm gonna say Endeavor is one of the best, most fascinating, most interesting characters in that whole show.
Oh yeah.
His arc of who he was, who he is, who he's trying to
on
become.
Track to go for.
Yeah, it's a beautiful. There's a lot you can unpack in terms of the Christian life, the Christian experience, just in that alone. But that's another thing. So yeah, All-Might, symbol of peace.
Yeah.
That grin, that smile, means different things depending on where you're standing.
That's right.
And other people have looked at his big goofy grin and laughed, right? Like his persona is played off for jokes. More often than not in the show.
Oh yeah.
Right. because he's a big goofball. Too, right? And that persona is so over the top, like. It's him having, I am here. I am here as his ringtone, and people are like, "Why is that your ringtone, dude?" Like,
because you want to be annoyingly funny. That's what it really is.
So that's like that just gives some insight into different. There's different all those. It's
Yeah.
You brought up American Gods earlier, and Gaiman has a literary concept of deities. Those that are essentially fueled by belief. And so, like, it's essentially like gods for him are a derivative thing out of conscious beings and manifestations.
Of what your beliefs are. Yeah,
and if you and the less people believe, the less power a deity has, or they will change and alter according to the belief. So that's why there's the. It's interesting. So
so many different.
I attribute
it.
I attribute it to Gaiman. You actually shouldn't.
No.
Because that was not original to Gaiman's work. Jesus was not in the book. American Gods.
I didn't know that.
It was unique to the show that they felt they wanted to touch on Jesus, which I actually don't know that Gaiman was all that thrilled about.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that's not original to him.
Good to know.
But it still carries forward that idea, and that's where, like, when you watch or read Sandman, he distinguishes that the endless are not gods, because as they are manifestations, still emanating from human experience and human consciousness, they are not subject to the beliefs. They do not diminish in power when less people believe in them. Right? So anyway, a lot of people view Christ differently. And some just look at him and he's a joke, and that's where, like, you mentioned Dogma, right? And the
Buddy Jesus.
And that Buddy Jesus image became a meme. Right? Or like the Raptor Jesus meme. That's right. Or the Obi-Wan meme.
Oh yeah.
Or like, how memed has Christ become in our culture, right? And it's because it's like, oh yeah, sure, it's All-Might with his ringtone. It's like, he's hilarious. Not actually looking at what he is, who he is, what he has done.
That's right.
Not taking into consideration all of these other things, right? So that's kind of a tangent to the main point, and why I brought in the army behind the White Rider is, like, when you objectively just look at that image of Jesus and the rider on the white horse, it is terrifying.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? But it's only terrifying
on which side?
If you're on that side of the battlefield.
That's right.
If you're one of the, like, again, to pull a point that you had brought up earlier, right? Like, you talked about him. There he is. Yeah. Aragorn again. You talk about. You mentioned. I got so distracted by Aragorn's visage that it just, like, derailed.
It hits you off, right?
So you talked about. I got it. He's got this whole army behind him, but he's essentially the one that just goes in and wrecks shop, right? Like, the army doesn't even have to participate in the battle.
No.
And then I actually drew out in the sermon, because timey-wimey shenanigans, it's all symbolic really anyway. So, the whole idea of his robes already being dipped in blood and stuff like that, it's almost like the battle had already happened.
Yeah.
Some people take that as, like, oh, it means it's going to be a bloodless battle, and it's like, no, it's not.
Yeah, especially after descriptors later, right? Like,
it's just the idea that it is more symbolic than it is literal in that context, in that passage, and time and like, the writer is not terribly interested in chronology.
No.
And continuity.
Yeah.
So much as he is, like, getting a point across.
That's right. That's right.
But it will be a very bloody battle, and it will be one that is fought pretty much exclusively by Jesus himself. Like, the rest, that huge army is essentially just a bunch of bystanders.
Yeah. Hardcore hype men.
Who do you want to go into war with? Right?
Yeah.
If you're standing on that battle line, in that battlefield, do you want Pantene Jesus at the front of your... You know what I mean? Like,
no. Yeah.
That idea of the, like, or hippie Jesus, as you kind of talked about with American Gods.
Yeah.
You know, I always go back to, like, you know, the film adaptation of Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh, yeah.
Which is as literal to hippie Jesus as you can, because it was literally done in the 70s, and it's literally a bunch of hippies playing Jesus as his disciple. Very problematic movie. Amazing music, though.
Oh, Solomon's throwing down. Yeah, table flipping Jesus in the temple. Best Jesus, lol.
Right? Yeah.
Man.
And that's, again, it's the dimensionality to it, right? He is gentle and lowly. That is who he is in his innermost heart. The writer that I mentioned earlier, like Dane Ortland, talks about, you know, who is God if you were to catch him off guard. Like, if you catch somebody, you know, if you catch me off guard, right, you surprise me.
That's right.
What's going to flow out of me? I'm probably going to be annoyed. I'm probably gonna you know, grumble. Knowing me, I might curse. Like, there's gonna be like some kind of like there's gonna be it's gonna be grumpiness.
Yeah.
Right, is the thing that's gonna, if you catch me off guard, that's what's gonna flow.
Right.
What happens if you catch God off guard?
Yeah.
Blessing.
Yeah, man.
Joy.
Yeah.
Kindness. Yeah. These are the things that flow most naturally out of him. Doesn't mean he's not that.
Oh, no. 100%. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
It doesn't... We have so many instances of these, like, terrifying visages of God and of Christ throughout the scriptures by necessity, because of by interaction with sin having entered this creation. But at his heart, he is gentle and lowly. And that is beautiful, and that is wonderful, and that is why, you know, when you have him at the head of your army, you know, that only happened because of his gentleness, because of his lowliness, because of his grace and his mercy, inviting you in, bringing you to the other side of the battle lines, and embracing you as one of his own, right? All of that is essential, and it's why you look at him with love, trust, veneration, and you feel safe when you see that terrifying image.
That's right.
Whereas those who stand in opposition, it's like, yo, that's crazy. Yeah. I'm about to die.
I'm just gonna go now, run.
Yeah.
You know, like, so, and I would akin it to like Exodus 34, 6 and 7, right? So like when God introduces himself to all of Israel, this is after they've been like freed in Exodus, right? Like freed from Egypt. He's coming in big boss hoss mode, right? Like, he comes down on friggin' Mount Sinai. There's friggin' fire, thunderstorm, everything. The whole mountain shaking. And what does he say about himself? He is a God of compassion, mercy, slow to anger, abound in unfailing love and faithfulness. And you're like, dude, what the heck? Like, you're throwing lightning bolts like it means nothing. And you're saying, yo, man, I feel you. Like, I'm here for you. It's like...
The author of the book that I mentioned, it was funny. So, like, when I was devising the sermon initially, that book, Gentle and Lowly by Dane Ortland, was recommended to me because somebody's like, this might have some relevance to what you're preaching on. And it, like, I rewrote my sermon, basically, like, because of it. Like, revolutionized some of my thinking on things. But there was an interesting portion where he deals with Lamentations. I think it's Lamentations 3:3. Where I can't remember all the context of it, but it basically is it's the idea of referring to justice and wrath and causing affliction as being a strange work of God's. It is still his work. He still does it. It still happens. It is the Lord who brings affliction. Like, that is all still under his sovereignty, under his control. Absolutely him. But it is something that is strange to him. Yeah. It's alien. It's not what flows most naturally from his innermost self. It's more of a by necessity of him being a holy and perfect God.
Yeah.
You know, he cannot, just physically cannot tolerate sin in his presence, right? That's why he had to cover Moses' gaze.
Yeah, it's just like, yo, you can check, like, the back, you know, like, flex, kind of stuff like that. But, like...
Yeah. It's why, like, after being on Mount Sinai, Moses had to have his head wrapped because he was just literally like a beacon shining.
Yeah, man.
At the majesty and the glory of God. And it's similar here, where it's just like we have this majestic, intense image of who Jesus is. But just like All-Might and his smile, what that means is purely dependent on whether you're the perpetrator or you're the ally.
Mm-hmm. And I want to follow up on this part, and then we can land on a level up challenge, because I like throwing level up challenges and stuff like that.
Throw it down.
What I love is Deku. So like Deku's response. Let's throw up Deku original costume, because it's just.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
There you go.
Yeah, man. This one.
Yeah,
Right here, man. So, Deku, obviously, favorite hero, All Might. And, like, that, you can see it. Like, the hair's there. He's, like, trying to look...
I've been, like, drifting.
It's all good. It's all good, man. But, like, it's the smile, right?
Yeah.
And All Might even makes a comment on it when he goes in for, like, the final test to really show up.
He,
and all the
zeroes in on all of these things. He's like, could you be more obvious?
Why? Like, are you not original? And I'm just like, but that's the thing for Deku. For Deku, he doesn't see himself as wanting to be anything but like All Might.
Yeah, he just wants to be an All Might clone.
Right. Like, that's why he keeps on...
He's striving towards.
Well, he keeps on replaying the same video, right? Like, you're bawling with him. You're seeing the drive, the imagination, right? For him, that smile was an inspiration and a sense of peace. Mm-hmm. He was able to feel that, but then he wanted to be that embodiment too, to help carry that forward. Mm-hmm. And like, that's his whole drive. That's why he wants to be a hero. That's why Deku will be the name of a hero, right? Like, even though he's absolutely the worst candidate to be a hero, worst candidate, because he's got nada, but he's actually the best candidate because he's had to work it, he's had to think it, he's had to process it, and analyze it. And now, like, we've got other side Deku coming on out, which is just nuts. And I know Tom is just wait, you'll see. I know, Tom, I know. And we're not trying to release any spoilers and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm not caught up, man.
Oh, man. But seeing seeing his heart, right? Like, as soon as he saw All Might, as soon as All Might saved him, right? Like, he goes fanboy, but he realizes what All Might does. Mm-hmm. And then he exudes that to the point where even All Might's like, holy crap, man. Mm-hmm. Like, you stepped in even when I didn't. And that's where it all starts in that point, is that reflection, right? And, like, that's what we're supposed to even do with Jesus, right? Mm-hmm. That's where I think, like, and this is my own interpretation off of that with the riders in the back, and if it's likely a mixture of believers and angelic beings and stuff like that, it makes sense that they're in white linen, that they're in the horses, because you rep your crew. You rep the guy who's up front. They're all dressed up. The only thing that's different is they don't have the supreme power and authority like Jesus does. Mm-hmm. And so really it's Jesus that's got to do the business. He's got to do the work on it. But we are embodying going, like, he's got a whole crew behind him, even though he really doesn't need it.
Yep.
But, like, and that's like All Might. All Might really didn't need a whole crew. He could just step in and eliminate if he wanted to go full-fledged. And we saw that, like, in the big fight with All for One, and being able to just face absolute evil. Mm-hmm. All Might's able to do it. But he's more than that. He's the embodiment of what does it mean to be a hero? How does that inspire other people to follow through? And we've talked about, like, even Second Adam, right? Like, the idea that this is not just one person and that's all it is. It's the after effect that Christ is bringing more people into the family of God, that now we are affiliated with him, we are connected with him. And so, yeah, it does matter which side you're facing. Because if you don't know Jesus like that, you're going to be intimidated the crap out of when it comes to this moment. When Jesus truly reveals what he does with actual evil and with intentions and, like, who you're siding with. And just, perfect analogy, man. like legitimately good comparison for me. That was like a whole other level of adding to Revelation, because I had never thought of it that way. But that smile makes that difference. Mm-hmm. When you are a villain, you're like, oh flip, like I may as well just die right now because there's no point
even like the first villain that you see him face in the show is like, I didn't know he was in town.
Yeah. He freaks out just like shoot. But like 100%, and that's not even him at 100% capacity. Like you find out that he's weakened at this point. You're like, holy crap, man! Yep. Like what would have been 100? Mm-hmm. And you're seeing that with Deku over time. But like again, it's the responsibility. And Deku's having to figure that and process that out, which is, I think Deku is a beautiful illustration for Christians. And really understanding, like, what do you take on with the mantle? What are you doing about that? Are you being as intentional as Deku is, to the point where you're exhausted and All Might would be like, you idiot! What are you doing? This is not part of our schedule! I know what you're doing! It's just like, oh my Lanta, that's hilarious, but wicked true. And we should strive to be doing that. But we do need to own up to, like, who is that mantle? So, level up challenge on this. What would you give our viewers, listeners, crew at home? What would be the challenge that you would give them on this one?
I think you kind of dovetailed into it already. Which is you know, first of all, depending, because I'm not just going to assume that anyone hearing this is coming from the perspective of being part of the army behind him, right?
100%, yeah.
So what does that smile mean to you? What does that image of Christ, like, what happens to you when you think about the prospect of standing in the vicinity of this image as a real flesh and blood person on a white horse sitting in front of you? Eyes blazing with fire, robes dipped in blood, rod of iron in one hand, sword coming out of the mouth.
Like, eyes on fire.
What would that do?
Yeah.
Like, what is your reaction? What is your response? What is your standing with this individual? Because we don't want to lose sight of, within the symbology, like, there is still a predictive element to the book of Revelation. It is still saying, this is Jesus, this is who he is, and this is who he will be. And there will come a point where we all are going to be like, every human being in history is going to be, to some degree, present or represented in that battle. And the question is, what side of the battle are you on?
That's right.
And what does that image mean to you? What does All Might smile? Do you ridicule it?
Yeah.
Do you feel safe because of it?
Yeah.
Or do you quiver with fear? And so that's I'd say one aspect, but then for those of us who are sitting in that army on the horses, have you is the white linen pressed? Have you been feeding the horse?
Ooh, yeah.
Have you been taking care of your mount? Are you ready for battle? Are you like the military has very strict regimens around upkeep and maintenance and training and working hard, like you said with Deku.
Yeah.
Are you chasing after representing and living out being a representative of Christ the way that Deku is aspiring to be a hero like All Might? Are you putting in that work? Are you motivated as such to do it? And if not, why?
Yeah.
And take some time to reflect on that and consider, are you like Deku trying to be All Might?
Yeah, man. 100%. No, I dig it. Yeah. I love it. So there's your challenges, guys. There's your level up challenges. What does the smile do to you? If you were in that situation, how are you feeling God? What's your response to that? And what does that mean you got to work on? Because if you're in fear, man, you got to know Jesus. And you
how do you
got to
cross the battle lines?
Yeah. But then, like, after that, even... Man, Solomon's digging your challenge, man. He's throwing it down. This is a great response. I'm amped on it. But like, yeah, past that, like, when you've chosen that you want that smile to mean hope, to mean peace, then how are you repping that? And that is an important thing for us to be doing. We can't just like acknowledge and just go, okay, I know what's that. I'm good. Like, yeah, those linens are white. Them horses are clean. They're prepped. Mm-hmm. You gotta be doing something alongside there. You can't just like sit pretty. You can't be another hero on the sideline going, yeah, like it's All-Might. He'll figure it out. It's like, no. Mm-hmm. Rep our boy. Rep why is he the symbol of hope? Because he freaking jumps at us and go, yes, I want that. I want to do it. Yeah.
There it is.
I dig it. I love it, man. I dig it. So
we got there.
We made it to the All-Might part.
There was 700 tangents along the way.
It is worth all of it.
We did get to the main point.
It was worth all of it. Because, like, come on, Tom's loving it. He's just like he's just throwing down. That's good stuff. No, man. Yeah, so I'm just going to say we're going to end off in some prayer. So if those of you who are on the stream, if you got prayer requests, throw them down, stuff like that. Anything we could be praying for you, my man?
I hadn't thought about that.
Ooh.
Yeah, I guess just strength and perseverance. I got a lot going on right now. Just busy. Nothing like... No great tragedies, no great any, obstacles happening, but just a lot on the go.
Yeah, man.
So just prayer that I can be held up underneath all of that and get done what needs doing.
For sure, dude. We got prayer from Tom. He's sitting at home with COVID. He got it
that's rough, bro.
Right? He got it I think you had symptoms, what was it, Tuesday? Was it, Tom? Tom's not saying anything, so...
Oh, he's got COVID.
Sorry, I was muted.
Oh, he was muted.
So, I had symptoms Sunday, but I didn't test myself until Wednesday.
Okay, so symptoms Sunday, but tested Wednesday. So, he's been having a rough go of being at home. Now, he is missing co-op, so, that's kind of what sucks. It's actually... Yeah. Fun stuff that he was getting in. He's going into electrical coolness and stuff that. But then he's been, gaming on and off.
He's sad.
Stuff like that. Yeah, well, you miss interaction. That's what it is. You miss, a good high five, a good Adam hug. I get it.
Oh, I want Adam's hug.
Oh, he wants your hugs.
Once you've recovered.
Yeah!
We can talk about it.
I think he's a little excited. I'm just a little amped for some Adam hugs. I will vouch. The Adam hugs are so good. There's a reason why Adam's called Beast on my phone. And it's legit. If I was to say anything, man, Adam's a good rep on Beast.
Yeah.
He's man.
Well, I was just explaining to someone today that I am the size of the average American black bear.
Yes.
They do talk about the bear hug, so it is.
You got a rep. So you do it. That's right. So obviously prayer for Tom in COVID. If you guys just for my fam jam, just for Mark to get feeling a little bit better. Wonder if it's a loose cord.
Yeah, I'm like above the screen and everything flickers.
But yeah, no, just for kiddos to get better, stuff like that. Because if they don't get better, then I won't feel good, and so then that's not cool. And just continue to pray that we can keep on reaching and doing what we're doing and nerding out and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna open up in prayer and then we can close there. God, I thank you for today. I thank you that we've been able to hang out, to nerd out, to go hard at not just talking about All-Might, not just talking about Gandalf the White, not just diving into nerdy topics, but to dive into you, God, and how your presence can create such an effect on us. And sometimes we hyper focus on the buddy Jesus mode, and we forget about you are a powerful and all knowing, all amazing God. That when you step on even a mountain, it shakes, it quivers. There's something powerful on you, and that can be a reassurance to those of us who know you, who hold on to you, or that can send us in absolute fear, not knowing, are we going to get the business out of that? So help us to bring that to light, that in our level of challenge that we would think about, where do we stand on that? Do we find peace when we know about that true presence of who you are too? and part of that, or do we tremble in fear? And then, if we tremble in fear, are we coming to you and asking for that, to that we can join you, that can be not afraid, that we can know that peace and know that you do have that peace about you. But then when we do join with you, are we repping you well? Are we standing alongside and knowing that you are that symbol of peace and sharing that with other people, and that there is power and authority in it? God, we just pray for Tom right now in COVID suckiness, because COVID sucks. Help him to recover quickly so that he can get back at hanging out with peeps and getting bear hugs from Adam, because that's an important thing, man. But just help him to be able to rest when he needs to rest, and be able to interact as he has been online, even with other crew, and being a support and encouraging other people. We just pray for Adam and just busyness of life in general. God, give him drive, give him energy for what he needs to get done, give him clarity of vision, and just how things can be done, so that he can just keep on showing you and demonstrating you, and again, keep on nerding out and diving into that with his bros and other connections too, and sharing that. And I just thank you for the sermon that you've given him, and the insight that you had him see, but then also be able to share that with his congregation and even here online, and to be able to support that. And just God, I pray for my fam jam, that there would be quick recovery for my son, and that the rest of us wouldn't get nailed with him and getting sick and stuff like that, but we would recover well and be able to push forward in what we're doing. And we ask this all in your name. Amen. Cool. That's it. I don't know ever how to end a stream or stuff like that. I guess that's just, but tune in throughout the rest of the week. We got lots of stuff going on. XP game night, it's always on Tuesday nights.
Yeah!
So, yeah! Good way to go, Tom. Good yell. That was right in my ear. Awesome.
I think it's so much better that I can't.
Yeah, I know.
Right now.
It's just, you're reading off of what's
so
going
great. That's really funny.
Well,
it's so good. Oh, the Hoff even jumped. Yes, Hoff. But yeah, join in on gaming with us on Tuesdays. Mm-hmm. Wednesdays, we got Nuggets, who's the new rep for the Wednesday crew, and throwing down his nuggets of wisdom. Yes, horribly cheesy. I think it's good, but Squidward laugh. Gotta throw it down every once in a while.
It took everything in me not to. Anyway, yeah. Okay.
And then our Nerds Day Thursdays going on pretty hard. Yes, I like rhyming. I like coming up with weird titles. It's my shtick, as it were. But then Nerdy Bible Study happening. We got our goodness of what's in your anime, diving into Demon Slayer, and connecting it to Ephesians 6. And then our prayer support, and then tune in next week. Next week, I already have my fuck. I'm like all preset and all this. But also note, in about 2 weeks' time, so beginning of March, we're actually going to be having Hector Murray from Faith and Fandom. He's going to be online, because he's not going to fly all the way from South Carolina.
Why not?
That I don't know. Like,
it's called dedication, man.
I would be amped if he did. Totally I just don't have a basement ready for him to stay. That's the hard part. Fair. If we had a Comic-Con to have him jump at it, I would do Geek Church with him all day. Mm-hmm. The dude's just wonderful. But he'll be sharing a bit about his ministry. 10 years he's been at it, man, and going around to different Comic-Cons. Yeah. But we'll be having that segment in 2-ish weeks' time and stuff like that. So, sweet. Yeah. So that's what's going on, and don't be shy. Adam's on the server every once in a while. Throw him a line.
Yeah, I mean, I
every once in a while, you see things.
I see it all happening. I take it all in.
But no, throw it down. Likely, if you've read it, he's probably read it, and he's a wonderful fount of knowledge that throws down some good Marvel discussions. We've had lots of those, and DC comics. We want to start a comic book group, guys. Join the Discord.
Yeah.
Yes, man. Solomon throwing the love. But we want to start a comic book club. Like we want things going on.
Oh man, we've talked about that for a minute.
For
a hot minute.
A hot minute. But no. Anywho, guys, I'm gonna send you guys off. Have a good one, and yo, keep nerding out. Okay. Do it.
Lots of nerding.